Well, good evening and welcome to a unscheduled episode at 1 in the morning of Investigate Everything. I am your host, Brian O'Shea, and I've been offline for a little while because I have not been able to get my head out of these Jeffrey Epstein files. So I was putting together finally an episode, which I planned on doing on Monday, regarding another topic that I've been digging into with Epstein. And while I was setting that up, I saw this headline. And what that headline said was this. Epstein grand jury, the judge rejects Epstein grand jury transcripts in Florida. So what is this about? Well, under the pressure from us, as we should give, President Trump finally instructed DOJ Pam Bondi to seek getting those Epstein files from Florida, 2005 through 2007, unsealed. I actually was surprised that they were not unsealed. So the judge rejected it outright. Now, here's what happened is what really caught my attention here was I read through the transcript, and then I didn't really see a good reason why this judge had rejected them. I'm like, well, pretty much so many things are unsealed about the Epstein files already. What's the big deal? So when I read her argument, for lack of a better term, something really caught my eye. So let me go right to my Substack because I think I highlighted it on there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this on my Substack here. So what really caught my eye was this. And you can find this description in the link. So this was actually yesterday. I haven't even been looking at the news, but basically it says in the matter before the court, the request to unseal the grand jury transcripts stemming from the government's investigation into Mr. Jeffrey Epstein in the Southern District of Florida, for reasons set forth below. So basically she's denying it. So right at the end when she's giving all the orders, she said it gave a couple instructions. It is further ordered that, as a matter of public interest, the court directs the clerk of the court to open a new miscellaneous case with a United States petition to unseal grand jury transcripts as the initiating document. So she's basically saying, consolidate all of these filings regarding this action of the DOJ trying to get the grand jury files unsealed in Florida, and basically let's get them all in one spot. But the key thing is this right here. It is further ordered that because the undersigned has been presiding over the United States petition, the undersigned being the judge, to unseal the grand jury transcripts that was filed as part of the grand jury docket, the case should be directly assigned to the undersigned. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know if judges can assign themselves cases that haven't been filed yet. It's almost like she wanted to. What caught my attention was it was like she wanted to control what happens with these unsealings. That caught my eye. I'm sure it would catch yours. And then this one. It is further ordered that because the government's petition is denied, the clerk of the court shall close the case. Where have we heard that before? Didn't someone just do that and it started this whole shitstorm? Oh, right. Someone else closed the case, and guess what? Case isn't closed, really. And again, she didn't specify the case. What is the case? The case to unseal these files? Probably. Again, not a lawyer, not a legal expert, but it's very directive style. So there she is, the undersigned, Robin L. Rosenberg. Okay. I'm just going to start reading from my Substack because it's late. I'm super tired, but I thought this is super important to get on this. So I wrote it up, put it out probably about 8:30, I think, and got it out here on Substack, and then decided to just change the whole episode to this so we could go through this. So let me just read what I wrote. It's not the best writing. Judge who denied President Trump's bid to unseal Florida federal grand jury Epstein transcripts is married to the then successor of state attorney who helped broker Epstein's sweetheart deal with Acosta. Oh, really? Okay. I would think you might want to reveal that as the judge presiding over the very files that your current husband might be in, or at least might have been involved with the Epstein case. That seems like a conflict of interest. Again, not a lawyer, but yeah, I mean, it seems like at a minimum something a judge presiding over the unsealing of documents from a grand jury in the very district her husband was a Florida state attorney for. She didn't think to mention that. Judge Robin Rosenberg failed to disclose her marriage to Michael McAuliffe, who took over as Florida State Attorney General after Barry Krischer, and that was in January of 2009. So particularly this nice little mosaic. There's her husband, handsome guy. He's from the Czech Republic. He's a writer. He's a crime writer. That's what all these lawyers seem to do after they leave. And just so if you're not sure if they're married, first of all, remember, she signed her name, so it's Judge Robin L. Rosenberg. And be careful if you're researching this. There is a Judge Robin M. Rosenberg. This is her right here. And then I found on his LinkedIn the perfect choice, but unbiased. Oh, so cute. So cute for these two people married in their union of the perversion of justice and to help a pedophile. They say cute things to each other on LinkedIn. Congratulations to Judge Robin L. Rosenberg, JDMA 89, on being named the next director of the Federal Judicial Center. Okay. All right, so let's go through it. Judge Robin L. Rosenberg has made sure that those decades-old grand jury transcripts will not see the light of day. If she is trying to protect someone, then that someone would be Michael McAuliffe, her current husband, who was the successor to Florida State Attorney Barry Krischer. Though these grand jury proceedings and the now infamous sweetheart deal preceded Michael McAuliffe's time in office as Florida State Attorney for Palm Beach County, January 2009, March 2012, McAuliffe held the position of Palm Beach County's elected prosecutor and chief law enforcement official for 15th Judicial Circuit. That's from his LinkedIn. For almost the entirety of Epstein's house arrest / probation. July 2009 through July 2010 was when he was under house arrest and probation. It seems likely that McAuliffe failed to have his department enforce any of the rules for house arrest and his probation, despite allegedly having knowledge of these violations. So basically, let me just break it down. McAuliffe was the Florida State Attorney General for Palm Beach County, the county that Jeffrey Epstein lived in. And just for those of you just joining us, we're talking about Judge Rosenberg's husband, current husband, who just yesterday or 2 days ago denied and rejected the Trump DOJ's bid to get the 2005-2007 grand jury transcripts from the proceedings and the investigations unsealed. And so as the Florida State Attorney for that county, that's like the AG, that's like the Attorney General, that's the top prosecutor in the county. Okay, and it's a big position. It's like the DA, in New York. So here you got Jeffrey Epstein, who we all know was violating parole and house arrest because, why? How is he doing that? Well, first of all, when he was in prison, what the sweetheart deal is you'll see. It's kind of like Goodfellas. Like, he literally had his own wing, kind of come and go as he pleased. And then when he went on probation, probation, if you know anyone who's been in prison or you've been on probation yourself, those rules you got to follow. You can't leave the state. A lot of times, if you're under house arrest, you can't leave the house. That's what those ankle bracelets are, but not Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, if you steal a bunch of money to become a billionaire and then use that money to do many things, but one of your main hobbies is raping young girls and manipulating them into a sex trafficking ring, apparently that gives you special privileges. It seems that McAuliffe failed to have his department enforce any of the rules for his house arrest and his probation, despite allegedly having knowledge of these violations. But Michael McAuliffe started in his role as state attorney after the criminal court case, and long after the grand juries related to this case were impaneled and convened. So is she, being Judge Rosenberg, hiding something by not unsealing these files? Or maybe is she getting pressure from her husband to keep them sealed? Maybe someone else is ensuring that she keeps the secrets contained therein from being revealed. One open secret that seems to be on very few officials and legacy media outlets' minds is Judge Rosenberg's husband, Michael McAuliffe's direct connection and the involvement with the Jeffrey Epstein criminal case in Florida back to 2009. Why is that? I don't know if that made sense. I wrote this quickly and I have not edited it. Please support me if you're there. So, anyways, here's the thing. I don't know if I broke this story. I'm pretty sure if I didn't, I'm one of the top 3. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just glad it's getting out there. I'm not a journalist by trade, and I don't plan on being the next Substack star or a podcast star. What I care about is this constant perversion of justice. And so what's happened is, as I was looking at these other things, cases related to the Epstein death, to the inmates in his death, when you start going through these criminal cases, anything that has to do with Epstein or the Southern District of New York, and as it seems, the FBI, and then of course anyone who's worked at Covington or Holland and Knight or all these douchey firms, these people are killers. Okay? They're killers, and let me just tell you something. After 7 days in solitary confinement on my own, just pouring through thousands of documents. I did this years ago, and then, I had to move on to other cases. But of course, once, my beloved President Trump called us dumb or whatever he said for wanting to follow up on this, well, yeah, that's I don't deal with that well. And so like all of you, I had to go see. So anyways, let me give you a background on the case. So this whole thing started in 2005. I mean, it started long before that, but that's when Virginia Giuffre, formerly I think Virginia Roberts, really started going after this. And then one of the parents of Jeffrey Epstein's victims, survivors, the parents actually called the cops and said, hey, this old man is molested my daughter. And so the police started looking into it. And this is a really sad chapter in the Epstein files, is that period down there in 2005 through 2007, because it sounds like there were some good cops that wanted to look into this and say, hey, this ain't right. Okay, and one of them, the lead detective, he was really making some ground, getting these girls to talk, which is hard, if you have daughters who are tweens or teens, can you imagine? They're not going to talk about this. They're embarrassed, or, they don't know if they're in trouble. They're taught not to trust police. This guy did really good. Okay. Now, he died, I think, in 2009 from what they call a sudden cancer. Really, really. And before he died, he gave copies of all his files to one of his colleagues and said, hey, make copies of these and put them somewhere safe. And he took off. That's another story. I won't get into it. Basically, there were some good officials down there, a lot of bad ones, but there's some good ones that really wanted to see this case through, and they just kept running into brick walls, and those brick walls always seem to be the DOJ. And we're seeing that now. Okay, but before I go down that rabbit hole, look, here's what happened. So finally there was an indictment, and then there was a conviction, and I don't really understand the gymnastics here legally, but apparently Krischer, who was the prosecuting attorney, the Florida state attorney, he decided to convene a grand jury. Now, as I understand it, this kind of softens the blow to Epstein. Don't ask me to explain how at 1:40 in the morning, but I was reading about it tonight, so we'll get into that another day. But it was kind of sudden and unexpected that he convened a grand jury. And if you don't know what a grand jury is or how it works, I have a very good friend named Kelly Mordecai, and I'd love to have him on to explain it. He's like the grand jury expert. I worked with him getting subpoenas served to like Walensky and everything on the great Dr. Ely's Army team, where we were trying to convene grand juries to bring HHS directors and everyone to justice. And that's, I think, still going on. Anyways, so that was odd. Okay, so despite having pled guilty to 2 felonies of solicitation of prostitution and Krischer's charge of solicitation of a minor for prostitution, Epstein only received 18 months in jail, but he actually only ended up serving 13. What's worse, for some inexplicable reason, Krischer and Alexander Acosta, who was the federal prosecutor for Florida, later the Secretary of Labor, you all know who he is, they seem to go out of their way to make Epstein's sentence even lighter by offering him an unprecedented deal regarding how he would serve his time. So as the story goes, Epstein's lawyers were going to Krischer and Acosta and saying, okay, charge him with this. No, we don't like that. No, take that out. Take that out. Basically, Epstein's lawyers were telling them what to do, as I understand it. So they finally came up with this plea deal. This became known as the Sweetheart Deal and would later be dubbed the Deal of the Century. Krischer was part of the prosecutorial team that ended up offering Jeffrey Epstein the now redundant Sweetheart Deal that allowed the convicted sex offender, rapist, pedophile to only spend the evenings in the Palm Beach jail during his incarceration period. Yes, this is true. As I understand it, Jeffrey Epstein was gone for like 12, 13 hours a day. Sometimes he wouldn't even get back to the jail till like 10 o'clock at night. And his lawyers had set up an office for him in Palm Beach where he'd supposedly go to this office all day. Okay, and then come back in the evenings. And I think, as one podcaster put it, it was like his sentence was to spend his nights in a crappy hotel. So, I mean, have you ever heard of such a thing? We saw that in Goodfellas. I mentioned that earlier. That's insane. It's insane that it happened. I thought it was insane then. It's insane now, and it's insane now what we're discovering about this judge and everything else that's gone on. But I digress. So basically what ended up happening is, for his probation, he was released from jail and submitted to house arrest in July of 2009, while Judge Rosenberg's husband Michael was in the office as he had taken the office of Florida State Attorney of Palm Beach County by that time. He actually took that in January of 2009. It was in April of 2010 that Michael McAuliffe, by then having succeeded Krischer as the Florida State Attorney for Palm Beach County in January of 2009, that McAuliffe was contacted by Epstein's attorneys asking, and this is April 10th, asking for a suspension of his house arrest, according to Holly Baltz, from her article in 2025. And here's what she said. Palm Beach Post. Jeffrey Epstein timeline, how the Florida 6, okay, let me cut to the chase. So that's the whole case. These links will all be in the post. So she did a really good timeline. So that's Krischer, who just looks evil. And so what happened is, here you see he starts looking into the case, and then they have this nice timeline. So it's December 19th of 2005. And what happens is they decide to... they're investigating this case, and let me just read this, because this guy, he seemed like he was an amazing guy. October 20th, police search Epstein's home. Okay, so that's 2005. At 358 El Brillo Way, this is in Palm Beach, Florida, are several computers which police believe possibly contain names, photos, victims. Palm Beach detective Joseph Ricauri, the guy who died of sudden cancer, which is just bizarre and like everything else on this case, says he believes Epstein was tipped off about the research and that the computers were in the vault of an Epstein attorney. Later, federal prosecutors would try to get those computers. Marie Villafena, the chief federal prosecutor, said she suspected child porn was on them. Then in comes Epstein's legal team. Defense lawyers swoop in on Palm Beach County, State Attorney Barry Krischer on the state attorney. Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz, who had helped successfully defend O.J. Simpson 10 years earlier, I did not know that, hands him the MySpace pages of several victims which mention sex, drinking, and drugs. Other defense attorneys include local powerhouses such as Jack Goldberg and Roy Black. Roy Black just died 3 days ago, by the way. As well as nationally known attorneys Gerald Lefcourt and Kenneth Starr. So there's Barry Krischer, former Palm Beach County attorney. So then he gets indicted. Okay. And yeah, this is where it gets weird. So this is the really good guy he seemed good, that was really working hard to get these victims to tell their stories. So this guy, in my opinion, is a hero. God rest his soul. So they tell their stories. So we're going to flash ahead. You could read this on your own. Okay. So finally, he gets grand jury indicts. Yeah, here we go. Okay, grand jury indicts Epstein on a single solicitation of prostitution charge. Prosecutor Lana Belovec presents the case to the grand jury with only one victim testifying. Belovec attacks the 14-year-old's credibility with her MySpace pages given to prosecutors by the defense. The grand jury indicts Epstein on a felony charge of solicitation of prostitution. What a John propositioning an adult sex worker might face. The charge doesn't address the 14-year-old's age. July 23rd, 2006, Epstein gets arrested. Epstein spends one night in the Palm Beach County Jail. He is released the next morning. Now, this Palm Beach County, but if you know Palm Beach where Jeffrey Epstein lived, it's like an island. Okay, it's not West Palm Beach. So West Palm Beach is a lot of, yeah, it's not bad, but it's more retired folks, and there's like, that's where your trailer parks, and that's where Epstein would do his hunting. It's working class. So 2007, negotiating the secret deal not to prosecute Epstein. So this is the deal of the century I was talking about, and along with it goes the preferential treatment. Epstein signs what became known as the non-prosecution agreement called the Deal of the Century with federal and state authorities in exchange for pleading guilty to 2 felony prostitution-related charges under Krischer. The deal requires Epstein to register as a sex offender. Pay attention to that one, because that's what happens to that. It also protects 4 named co-conspirators as well as any potential co-conspirators. Okay, so, guys, so pay attention to that, because remember, it's not a conspiracy, right? Then the real negotiations begins among Krischer, federal prosecutors, and Epstein's lawyers, that being Acosta, the federal prosecutor. Chief Federal Prosecutor Villafena stands ready several times to launch a 6-count federal indictment that came from a federal grand jury investigation. But no. 2008, Epstein pleads guilty, goes to jail. So this is January 10th. Okay, when I think that's when he started his incarceration, or near there. It was definitely in 2008. Victims deceived by FBI letter. The FBI sends a letter to victims urging patience while they conduct a thorough investigation. It does not say the federal investigation is already over because of the non-prosecution agreement signed in September. Epstein pleads guilty. June 30, faces 2 felonies. Epstein pleads guilty to the grand jury's charge of solicitation and prostitution. Instead of potential decades in federal prison, he's sentenced to 18 months in jail. Guys, I just want to point out that Jeffrey Epstein, for raping and soliciting and manipulating and, just doing horrible things to multiple victims at this time, received less time than most January 6 prisoners. spent in prison just waiting for their trials. Okay. He would serve 13 months of his sentence in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail, reserved for snitches or others who need protection from the other inmates for various reasons, such as having a lot of money. Okay. He would spend mainly nights there, leaving on work release 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. One woman said later that she was flown in to have sex with him at the offices of the foundation he'd formed months before his guilty plea. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. 2009, Epstein gets out of jail, July 22nd. Now, at this point, Michael McAuliffe, Judge Rosenberg's husband, he's taken over for Krischer. He can travel anywhere as long as he's back in 24 hours. This guy's on probation for felonies, for sex crimes. Epstein is released from jail to spend a year on house arrest, but he is allowed to travel frequently, such as to his private island in the Virgin Islands, as long as he's back in 24 hours. His lawyers asked to end the house arrest early, a request rejected by Kirshner's successor, Michael McAuliffe. There he is. A few potential violations of house arrest are documented in the state attorney's files, but no one takes action. A violation could have sent Epstein back to jail. Now think about this. If he's flying to his island, it's very likely, and I think it's been shown, that he was committing his crimes while he was on probation under Michael McAuliffe's watch. Under the chief law enforcement officer of Palm Beach County, under his watch. It's his responsibility. It's Michael McAuliffe's responsibility to ensure that his conviction, his sentence, is being enforced. He's the top law enforcement officer as the Florida State Attorney for Palm Beach County. He didn't do that. And according to this article and according to the state attorney's files, which I downloaded all of them, so many files in this case, a few potential violations of house arrest are documented in the state attorney's files, but no one takes action. A violation could have sent Epstein back to jail. Now think about that. Think about it. This is 2009. I'm going to put it on McAuliffe. I mean, we already know Krischer is a scumbag, from cutting this deal, and so is Acosta. God knows who else is down there with them that we already know. All of the victims that came after 2009 would not be victims if this Michael McAuliffe just did his goddamn job. And, as it goes in the Marxist world, I won't even say left to right because Acosta's a Republican, as it goes in this weird space relations world that they've created, the worse you are, the more promotions you get. You'll see what I mean. Okay, flash ahead, you guys know the rest. Okay, Epstein, 2019, dies on August 10th at 6:30 in the morning in the SHU over at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Okay, so going back to the Substack so I can stay on track here. So that's what happened there. That's the sweetheart deal. Epstein is released from jail to spend a year on house arrest, but he's allowed to travel frequently. Okay, I already read that. However, according to an article in the Gainesville Sun published, Epstein's lawyers asked if Michael McAuliffe would also just drop the entire probation. Like, when I read this first, when I read Holly's piece, I was thinking if they just wanted him to have more freedom while he's on probation. Oh, no. April 2010, they came to Michael McAuliffe and they said, hey, let's just drop the whole thing. I mean, come on. Let's just be done with it. And I asked this in my Substack here. Strangely, Epstein's probation house arrest was going to end in just 4 months. It was ending in July. It wasn't like the probation was really inhibiting his freedom to go hunt little girls and, whatever else. So what was the hurry? Like, why did he have to get out now? What was you're getting out in 4 months, and you're not really in. You're in your palatial Palm Beach place. You're free to come and go as you want. He ignores the rules, which aren't enforced by Michael McAuliffe's office, who had the responsibility. Judge Rosenberg's husband, the judge who just recently denied Donald Trump's bid to get these very grand jury files unsealed, who never disclosed in the hearings, from what I can tell, that it seems to me that her husband is party to the case, or a party to an adjacent case, but definitely had was directly a party in the Epstein broader case, because he was the chief law enforcement officer in his position while Epstein was on probation. That means he's basically a ward of the criminal justice system. So he was in the case, okay? So what was the hurry? According to this article from the Gainesville Sun, the following conversation took place between McAuliffe and his assistant state attorney, Barbara Burns. This dragon just keeps raising its ugly head, Assistant State Attorney Barbara Burns wrote to Krischer's successor, State Attorney Michael McAuliffe. I don't know how to convey to him any more that I already have, that his client is a registered sex offender that was fortunate to get the deal of the century. Burns wrote, McAuliffe said he wouldn't get another one. Okay. Despite then Florida State Attorney, I'm being redundant here with my titles, I'll fix that. Despite McAuliffe's rejection of Epstein's lawyer's request to end his house arrest in April 2010, it seems unlikely that he would have been unaware of or would have not have had access to the records of his predecessor, Barry Krischer, including the grand jury records. It also seems likely that McAuliffe had a role in allowing Jeffrey Epstein's sentence to be downgraded to basically Shangri-La because he was supervising it. I mean, this is open and shut here. It's like, this judge needs to be, you choose my words carefully, kicked off the bench. He started as the state attorney, 15th Judicial Circuit, Office of the State Attorney, 15th Judicial Circuit, and stayed in this position until March of 2012. Okay, so January 2009 to March 2012, Michael McAuliffe, yes, the judge of the husband of Judge Rosenberg, who just denied Trump's bid. I'm going to keep saying it over and over so you don't forget. McAuliffe, her husband, was the top guy in the prosecutor's office from January 2009 to March of 2012, according to his LinkedIn profile. Okay, you can look at that on your own. Epstein began his house arrest, so compare that with Epstein. Epstein began his house arrest in July of 2009. So McAuliffe was already 7 months in the job. And I think it ended in 2012. According to the reporting of the Palm Beach Post, in 2009, McAuliffe was aware that Epstein had violated his house arrest and took no action. According to a journalist, Holly Baltz again, the documented violations of his house arrest included frequent travel, including, I think I already read that, including his private island, Virgin Islands. Michael McAuliffe, the man charged with enforcing Epstein's conviction and keeping this dangerous predator off the streets and the U.S. and abroad, apparently did nothing. And so here we are today, July 24th, 2025, and just over 24 hours ago when I wrote this, a judge married to one of the many officials in the Florida DOJ that allowed Jeffrey Epstein to have almost complete freedom during his sentencing time has rejected the Trump administration's request to unseal the very documents that might reveal corruption at the highest levels of Florida's justice system and perhaps the country. So we don't need to go through this. We already talked about that. You can read that on your own. Maybe this is so normal to ensure that all the documents related to an action are directed to the judge who presides. We're in 2025 now. Or maybe she has a different reason for wanting to close the case, block any other attempts to unseal the documents, and ensure she has complete control over all past, current, and future legal actions executed in any attempt to unseal these documents. Could that reason be her husband? Or maybe these documents contain a few more truths left to tell. Okay, so why did I end it like that? Contain a few more truths to tell. I'll tell you why. This is just ironic, I think. So her husband became an author after he left public service, pretty close to the time Jeffrey Epstein was free again. And his first book, ironically, is named No Truth Left to Tell. Oh, I disagree, Michael McAuliffe. I think we're going to unseal those records, and I think you're going to sing like a canary. Okay? No truth left to tell. Well, I think there's plenty of truths left to tell, and we're going to find them. Okay? Because we found you. All right? I found you. A few others found you, I'm sure. I saw us popping up about an hour after I posted mine. You're going to be very, very, very famous really soon. And I want to know why the media has not revealed this guy. They're all singing and dancing about, oh, Trump got another thing rejected. I mean, come on. This took me an hour to figure this out. An hour. And I gotta ask the question. I mean, wasn't Pam Bondi part of that whole Florida crowd of DOJ people? I can't believe that she didn't know that Michael McAuliffe was in the case. I just don't believe it. I don't have access to these files. I don't have access to what Pam Bondi has. I have the internet like you guys. But I found it out. She hasn't said a thing about it. She never raised any objection. No one has. No one has said I'm sorry, but no one has said in Trump's DOJ, hey, wait a minute. Aren't you married to a guy that was the prosecutor while Jeffrey Epstein was in his jurisdiction and under his supervision legally? No one. I find it hard to believe that they did not know this. Yes, I'm a good investigator, and all of you are too. I find it ridiculous that if I find this now, you're telling me that nobody over there at DOJ figured this one out? Come on. Come on. This is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous chapter in a ridiculous book that is becoming, I'm going to call it the Gospel of Bondi, man, because seriously, this is just garbage, all right? So this is Michael McAuliffe. Michael McAuliffe has been a practicing lawyer for over 30 years. He was a federal prosecutor serving both as assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of Florida and an honors program trial attorney in the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice in D.C. Guys, by the way, as you're going through the Epstein files, I hope all of you know, I know you do, this is why you get a lawyer even if you get arrested for littering. Because I'm sorry, man. It's like as I really go through with a fine-tooth comb all of these files, and I've been going through everything I get my hands on Pacer, on TransUnion, thousands of files. That's why I haven't broadcast or barely even tweeted or anything for the last week and a half. Poor Naomi Wolf, my wife, she's like, hey, do you want some dinner? And I'm like, oh no, I just ate breakfast. She's like, that was 8 hours ago. Just, sometimes you get that tunnel vision on this. And the problem with this case is that there's so many bad guys. But I have to say, after reading so much of it and ingesting so much of it, and you guys all who come to this show often, I have lots of experience when I was a private investigator doing murder cases for defense counsel. I'm also a trained intelligence analyst. I spent almost 3 decades in the U.S. intelligence community in all of those agencies you guys don't like. The point is, I know what I'm doing with intel. It's really not that hard. It just takes, I think it's more about diligence and attention to detail than it is about talent. But what I'm saying is, even without my training, it's a Google search. This guy has a book on Amazon, and he says it right there. Oh, and if someone wants to make the argument, well, how'd you find his website? It's called michaelmcauliffe.com. I'm pissed off, man. Michael McAuliffe has been practicing. It's right there. He also has been a partner at a major law firm, a global company, general counsel. Oh, wait till I get to the global company. I'm going to put it out tonight because people move fast. I'm impressed because I was writing up my draft. I just hit publish, and then I start scanning Google to see if anyone had broken this yet. And I saw someone just broke it right after me, and I was like, "Wow, that was fast." And then I look, and someone's already talking about it on a TikTok video, like an hour ago, 20 minutes ago. So I got to put it out. And look, the reason why I like to be first to things, and I'm rarely first to things, I do like to be first to things because I hope I've earned your trust in the fact that I really look at everything. I really do. And I mean, except for spell and grammar check as evidenced by my Substack, but I was in a hurry. I had to get this out. Anyways, he has also been a partner in a major law firm, global company, general counsel, a senior lecturing fellow at Duke University School of Law, and an adjunct professor at William and Mary School of Law. Early in his career, he was a civic education project fellow and visiting professor of law in the Czech Republic. I think he's from Czech Republic. Aside from the law, Mr. McAuliffe is an alpine mountaineer. Blah, blah. Okay, I've had enough. He receives JD from William and Mary. Michael and his wife, Robin Rosenberg, a U.S. District Judge on Amazon. Pam Bondi, it's right on Amazon. It's right there. You might have to click a few things. Okay. She's a U.S. District Judge. They have 3 children and live in Florida and Massachusetts. And the sad part is, I think they have at least 2 of those kids are daughters. And you know what? I really hope those kids are a lot more vigilant about dangerous predators than their daddy. Okay. Perfect choice. Unbiased. On this LinkedIn. Okay, so let's go through it right here. Here's the tabs. Okay, there it is. Michael McAuliffe. Quick search on Google. Once I saw he's an author. No truth to tell. It's just it's like a John Grisham ripoff. I'm sure all his buddies bought tons of copies. Okay, so, and then I'll go there, and, oh my gosh, profile, I'm such a good investigator. I'm such a good investigator, Pam Bondi. Look what I found. I found a conflict of interest on probably the most important case, hopefully soon be your last case you'll do in that job. Let me see, what else we got here? Let me see, how did I find him? Oh, wait, McAuliffe Law. He has a law firm. Oh, that's so nice. Where's that? Okay, so they better serve individuals seeking a boutique... whatever. Okay, this guy's a scumbag. Michael McAuliffe has a diverse national accomplishment, Palm Beach. It's really interesting, too, as you read the coverage of a lot of this guy. The legacy media fails to mention... they fail to mention his involvement in the case, or like even specifying the county he worked in. In 2008, on McAuliffeLawFirm.com, Google search on Michael McAuliffe pulls us right up on the first page. Was elected by voters in Palm Beach County to serve as attorney for the 15th Judicial Circuit. As state attorney, McAuliffe led and managed approximately 125 attorneys across 5 offices. He served as the chief law enforcement official in the jurisdiction and worked closely with the public defender, the chief judge. I bet he worked with the public defender. He probably, basically would tell them they'd be fired if they went against him. The chief judge, the sheriff, and other leaders in the criminal justice system. He worked closely with the chief judge. I bet he did. I bet he did. In fact, we know he did. Okay, or at least his predecessor did, on the Jeffrey Epstein case to get a sweetheart deal. That case was blessed by a judge, as you'll see, if you don't know already. While state attorney leaders and just... Mr. McAuliffe led efforts to adopt and implement ethics reform. Can you believe these assholes? Led efforts to adopt and implement ethics reform in the county, resulting in a series of definitive grand jury reports recommending the establishment of an independent inspector general and ethics commission. Dude, okay, look. Okay, this one, guys, make a note of this, okay? What he's saying in his bio is, well, state attorney Mr. McAuliffe led efforts to adopt and implement ethics reforms in the county, resulting in a series of definitive grand jury reports that recommended the establishment of independent inspector general and an ethics commission. I don't know what this idiot is trying to sell, but when a grand jury decides that your jurisdiction recommends the establishment of an independent inspector general and an ethics commission, that's not a good thing. I mean, that's not a good thing. He must have some dumb clients or thinks they're dumb. Like, that'd be like me saying, hey, hey, wife, things went good at work today. And she said, great. And yeah, so I've done so good. They assigned a special person to me to walk around the office with me every day to make sure I'm doing my job and doing it legally. I can imagine Naomi's work. She'd be like, are you insane? Are you that bad? I'd be like, no, that means they like me. I'm special. He got his own ethics commission assigned. Mr. McAuliffe also worked with Palm Beach County Sheriff and police chiefs to address the issues of gang violence and pill mills in the community, but apparently not to address the issues of the biggest sexual predator in American history prancing around your streets free as a bird while he's on probation and house arrest. From 2012 to 2016, Mr. McAuliffe serves as general counsel at one of the nation's largest privately held companies. As general counsel, Mr. McAuliffe supervised legal, environmental, regular, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that's the rest of it. I'm curious what that firm is. And for those of you just joining us, this guy here is the husband of... not that one... Where to go? Too many windows here. Okay, of Robin L. Rosenberg, who is the judge who denied Trump's request to unseal the documents from the grand jury investigation and the proceedings in 2007 and 2000 through 2005 and 2007. This is his wife. And by the way, back to my thing. Look, I'm telling you, ever since the Binder Bimbo Gate, where Pam Bondi had all the influencers run around with those stupid binders that said, top secret, don't look here. I'd never liked her. Like, right there, I'm like, this is another Beltway bandit. This is another grifter. This is a person who's going to get in there and just build another power base or reestablish one. I was further alerted to her when in April, I believe it was April, she doubled down on the United Healthcare alleged killer Luigi Mangioni's sentence, directing her office to seek the death penalty. I thought that was weird about Pam Bondi. And I thought that was weird because, first of all, she didn't bring those charges. Merrick Garland did. Those charges automatically have the death penalty in them. But in her press conference, she actually said, seeking the death penalty through Luigi Mangione, who shot and killed Brian Thompson of United Healthcare. She didn't say alleged, she just basically said he did it. She just totally tainted the entire case. But I always wondered, why was she doubling down on that? What happened? I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that Tom Dickey, the lawyer in Pennsylvania, Luigi Mangione's lawyer in Pennsylvania, had just submitted a request for relief, basically to have all the evidence in the Altoona, Pennsylvania arrest suppressed because it was an illegal arrest. He was legally eating his food. They had no reason to have so many people, including the FBI, which I thought was weird, 250 miles away. I do have to circle back to Luigi Mangione. For those of you who are new here, go back to over there on Rumble. You can find those episodes. I went in depth there as well. Okay, and there's also some on my Substack. All right, let's get into this. Okay, so there's him. And ironically, who's commenting on the Luigi Mangione case. You could read that on his LinkedIn. Get in there while it's hot, because I'm sure it's going to be down tomorrow. I already downloaded it. I tried to save it on Wayback Machine. It didn't look like it took. Okay, get rid of that one. Okay, so judge denies request to unseal the request. Federal judge Wednesday, Epstein, blah, blah, blah. So this is what led me to look at this. The decision is all but certain to frustrate Trump administration's frantic bid to show that no secrets remain from the government's investigation into Epstein. Irony, is that the very fact that he requested this unsealing just outed a big secret, that the judge is compromised, which tells me the fact that she didn't reveal a conflict of interest tells me there are secrets that they don't want us to know, because why would she keep them from being unsealed? I know I'm being redundant. I just want to pound that out there, okay? Because it's the left who's saying, and I started building my montage for the other show, but I collected all these comments from the left where they're like doing this, they do this influence thing to change your opinion. Covert influence is different than propaganda. It is a concerted effort to change public opinion, to change your reality, how you look at things. So see if you catch the covert influence here. The way the left is handling the July 9th Pam Bondi debacle, they're not saying, oh, Trump is bad. They're saying, okay, well, Trump started this conspiracy theory. And this is how conspiracy theories get started. See, Trump and Bondi started this conspiracy theory, and that's why a lot of people believe it. So what they're doing, the pundits, even at Fox, are saying, they're saying it like it's a foregone conclusion that it's all fake and it's conspiracy theory. You see how that works? So it's the same thing as Bernays, who wrote the famous book on propaganda. He was a salesman, and the way he sold pianos is he didn't go to your house and say, hey, buy a piano, you really need a piano. No, he kind of subverted and infiltrated society among the social elites and created this wave of thought that had people convinced that no home is complete without a piano. So he changed the reality, the mental reality, the opinion of what a home is. And that's where you have to be careful with legacy media, because the pundits are dumb. They just say whatever comes in their ear. It's not a far stretch from Ron Burgundy. But the people that help with the messaging, they're some of the finest psychologists in the world, and they've studied this stuff forever. For instance, some of the same people that help with messaging on media are the same people that did the research for a book called Nudge. That book was used kind of as the covert influence model for vaccine confidence activities, which was the changing of reality to get you to get the vaccine. And if you think back, there were a lot of people, the way they would message it, just like with this, they would say, oh, when you get your shot, when you get your booster, not if you get it, when you get it and it's yours. That's covert influence. Go to JJ Carroll's show, JJ Carroll 14 on X, and I did a whole rundown of this the other day. And this is a practice, and this is, I always call this the canvas upon which people paint propaganda, is covert influence. And I have direct experience with covert influence on a massive scale. Story for another day. All right, I again digress, but for weeks the administration has sought a quell. Okay, so they're making this seem like, say don't talk about the files or why anyone would want to seal them. They say, since July there have been extensive public. In a brief 12-page order, Judge Rosenberg wrote that the court's hands are tied. No, they're not. Pointing to what she said was the government's own concession in its filing that the laws on criminal procedure generally forbid courts from unsealing grand jury testimony except in narrow circumstances. She wrote that the Justice Department's request fell outside those narrow contexts, which can include sharing testimony with other department lawyers or as evidence in another lawsuit. Okay. I think she literally just undermined her own argument right there. Okay, so the government's request is not to assist with litigation in the New York federal proceedings, she wrote. The government wants the petition to be granted so it can release evidence to the public at large. Yeah. Yes. This was a possible syndicate. How do we know if, there could be more victims? Remember this. So what she's saying, remember when Epstein got arrested? In 2019, they did the big press conference where they put up the picture and they said, if you're a victim of this man, come forward. Yeah. That's exactly what we want. Damn, man, maybe I'll become a lawyer. Judge Rosenberg ordered that the new case be created in the public interest that provided access to the government's request, and the denial order as the Epstein jury docket is still sealed. She ordered close the case where the government filed its request, which started with the investigation into the Epstein in Florida, and specified in bold type that no transcripts or grand jury materials that had not been previously disclosed would appear on the new docket. So you see what she's doing? She's fencing off the old case. That's why they got to get that. They've got to preserve those files. She's fencing off the old case. Then she'll be, I guarantee, she'll be. So she's saying basically start over. Anything after this case you can request, but, you know. All right. All right, so that's the end of that. I don't want to spend too much money on this rag. Okay, so the next thing. I'm just going to start Xing these out. All right, so, Global Campus. I don't know what that is. I just kept the tabs up from the research. Okay, there's the petition again. That'll be in the definition. Okay, so... Oh yeah, so guess what? The global company he worked for is one of the Koch brothers companies. I'm not kidding you. Ex-PBC State Attorney McAuliffe gone from billionaire Koch's employee in 60 seconds. There he is. West Palm Beach, Michael McAuliffe, the former Palm Beach County State Attorney who resigned his office in 2012 to go to work for Palm Beach billionaire Bill Koch, Oxbow Corporation, is no longer working at the West Palm Beach-based energy company. McAuliffe's last day as general counsel of a mining and oil business was Monday, according to a source close to McAuliffe. He was given a few minutes to clean out his office and was spotted being escorted from the company's headquarters. All right, any one of you, if you want to scoop on this one and you want to dive into this one, just give me a shout out, but have it. That I can't investigate them all. This sucks about the Epstein thing. Everything leads everywhere. I was skimming this before and I missed that. McAuliffe's, just let that sink in. He's at a Koch brothers company. If you're, whatever you do to get escorted out by security at a Koch brothers company, you must be really a bad person. Because, no offense to the Koch brothers, I don't know them personally. Everything I've read about them ain't so good. But this guy was he got kicked out. McAuliffe's last day of general counsel on the mining and oil business was Monday, according to a source close to McAuliffe. He was given a few minutes to clean his office and was spotted being escorted from the company's headquarters off Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. By Tuesday, McAuliffe's biography disappeared from the list of executives on the company's website. Damn, he really fucked up. We reached out to Oxbow for official comment. We also called McAuliffe, but he hasn't returned the call. What happened? Office politics. We're told McAuliffe was busted by Koch trying to deal directly with Oxbow board of directors without telling Koch. Oh. So, wait a minute. That'd be like when his predecessor in the state attorney's office dealt directly with the offender and the judge and failed to tell the victims that they were doing this sweetheart deal. Sounds like he was mentored well. It didn't sit well with the billionaire who famously rewards loyalty. McAuliffe's departure comes just months after Gossip Extra reported exclusively that McAuliffe was considering a run for Congress. He'd fit right in. We're told Koch, the lesser-known brother of the Tea Party cash machines Charles and David Koch, had no idea his general counsel was exploring a run until he read it in your favorite website. And now that he's looking for a job, McAuliffe may be reconsidering a run for political office as a Democrat. The rumor in the county's political circles is that McAuliffe is now eyeing a seat as a judge. McAuliffe is married to newly appointed federal judge Rosenberg, who toils in criminal court in Fort Pierce. Okay, and again, I'll put that one in. So if you put that out on Twitter, let's try to create a nice ecosystem of, reciprocity. Just kind of say, hey, I heard this on. If you heard it here first, then just say you heard it here first, and I'll go back at you. By the way, just an aside, I heard a really good thing about Mike Benz. Now, I don't know Mike Benz. I like his work, but I and I don't hear this a lot. One thing I've got to say about our side of the aisle, as people say, but the Patriots, the MAGA, and everything, great. Everyone's great. I've always kind of been MAGA before there was a MAGA, but what I've noticed is in this new media space, there seems to be a lack of reciprocity in this ecosystem. We've noticed it. My wife has noticed it. Like, you'll shout out someone's show and then they don't shout yours out, or you promote a book for someone and then they won't promote yours. This has happened to her all the time with some very well-known people that may or may not be running HHS. But the thing is, one thing the left or the legacy media does do, the Marxists, they've got that system in lockstep. That's why they're like a hive. That's why, because they know, okay, I'm going to do this. He's got my back. And granted, we're independent thinkers. We don't want to be part of a herd or a hive. But let's start doing that. And I do notice a lot of people on Twitter are starting to call other people out for doing it. So start doing that. Not just like if you heard something here, but if you get information from anywhere, you should have a link and say, I got it from here, or I heard this on this show. There's nothing wrong with that. Because you're presenting it. You're doing part of the job. Okay? But that other person worked hard. And you should definitely give them the shout out, because that's how people get to see their work. For me, I don't make any money off the show. My wife owns the website. But I want the transparency out there. And this is why I left the intelligence community, to take what I know and try to rip the curtain back on things and give them to people, because I didn't like a lot of things that the attitudes I saw there. So that's just an aside. So what I heard about Mike Benz is that he does that, and I heard basically a friend of mine who's not really well known was really flattered when Mike Benz said really nice things about her and her work. So that's a salute to Mike Benz. Keep up the good work. All right. So there we go. So we got McAuliffe in a Koch brothers company. So this is kind of like one of those stack 'em games. So here's what we got, guys. We got the judge. We can make a song out of this for kids. So we have the judge, Judge Robin L. Rosenberg from West Palm Beach County, denied Trump's request to unseal the Epstein transcripts from the 2005-2007 grand jury proceedings. That a case that ended in Epstein pleading guilty and getting a sweetheart deal. The successor of then prosecutor Krischer was Michael McAuliffe, who happens to be that same judge's husband to this day. That husband, Michael McAuliffe, was the Florida State Attorney General for almost the entire time that Jeffrey Epstein was on probation and house arrest. Meaning that prosecutor was responsible for not enforcing the rules of probation and pretty much let Epstein do whatever he wanted, including flying all over the world while he was on probation. Anyone who knows probation, typically you can't leave the county. Okay? And you have to check in with someone. It's not even evident that he did that. And that was McAuliffe's job to enforce that. God knows how many crimes, sexual crimes, Jeffrey Epstein committed while under Michael McAuliffe's watch, who is the husband of the judge that just denied Trump's request for transparency of those files. There he is right there. If you want, one thing about me, when I collect everything. Okay, collect everything. It's good to do that. You put it in a timeline, because then you can see where people were all the time. So if you get to know them, like everyone's a book that I investigate. So when I hear someone say something that is incorrect or false, I can catch it really quickly. and I've got a big one coming on the Epstein case. I don't want to say too much about that because I want to make sure I'm right. I want to double check my sources, but I made a big discovery, maybe not huge, but pretty big, and it could affect all the way up to William Barr. So anyways, he's talking about how he travels in style. So why do I look at these things? Well, this is all intel. All of this is intel. Okay? You want to see where people wore at a certain time. Sometimes they will say things. So sometimes someone you know back then in the future might be notorious or something like that. All right? So that's why I like reading the old stuff here. For instance, see what it says here? Like right there. I got it. So they're asking, this is, I think, JohnnyJet.com. Okay, travel style with Michael McAuliffe. He just got interviewed for travel style. So here he's showing which countries he's gone to, how often you fly, they ask him questions. Have no desire to go to Somalia. Favorite World Heritage Site is Czech Republic stuff. JetBlue. I mean, this is like good intel. Like, if I was targeting someone in my old job, this would be a gold mine, this site right here. He's pretty much telling me all the places I could find him if I can't find him, and I'm tasked to find him. Favorite fruit, peach, Italian, Czech meat dishes. Drink of choice is a Manhattan. Okay, so we know he drinks back then. Touching the Void, The Walk in the Woods, Prague Sun, but check this out. What do you always seem to forget? Ambien. Now, read up on Ambien, you'll see, well, that's an issue. And he got fired from the Koch brothers thing. So that's that. All right, moving down the line here. I'm just showing you all the stuff I looked at today. Barely got into the files. All right, 2017. This is 5 years after he left. McAuliffe, former state attorney, seeks circuit seat. Now, this is why I'm showing you this, is because they never mention Epstein in any of these. Former Palm Beach County State Attorney Michael McAuliffe, who left the office to take private sector job that he got fired from before completing his term in 2012, is seeking to return to public office as a circuit judge. Wait a minute. Who left the private sector? Just a second. Sorry, guys. I'm just wondering, are they saying he left while he was state attorney? Okay, well, I'll go into that another time. That led me nowhere. I don't want to hunt for it. So he left the job and then went back to it? Let's make a note of that. All right. Yeah, they said he left office to take a private job before completing his term in 2012. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could get elected into a position, duck out for... Where did he go? Duck out for a little while, come back in, say, oh yeah, I want to be state attorney general again, or state attorney again. McAuliffe announced Tuesday he's running for Group 13 seat held by Palm Beach County District Judge David French. French does not plan to seek re-election in 2018. McAuliffe's wife is U.S. Judge Robin Rosenberg, who was nominated to federal bench by what? Barack Obama. Confirmed in 2014. Rosenberg was elected to the circuit court without opposition in 2006, so go figure, and served there until her elevation to federal judgeship. McAuliffe was elected state attorney as a Democrat in 2008 and opened a 2012 re-election campaign in 2011. But in January 2012, amid expectations that former state Senator Dave Aronberg would challenge McAuliffe in a Democratic primary, McAuliffe announced he would not be seeking re-election and would take a job with West Palm Beach-based Oxbow Carbon, an energy company headed by Palm Beach billionaire Bill Koch. A few days later, McAuliffe announced that he would leave the office before completing his term. He told staff that, understandably, the company I will join wants and needs me before January 13th. As a result, I will not be able to complete my full term in office. He got elected. He got elected. Say, sorry, thanks for putting me in office and voting for me. I want to do something else now. All right. Aronberg was elected state attorney in 2012, but then re-elected without opposition in 2016. So let me just break that down for you. He was willing to run, and then when he had to run against someone, he bowed out, left his elected position to go work for the Koch brothers, or a Koch brother, and got fired from that job, and then came back and said, "Yeah, I guess I'll finish my state attorney job." We got to look into that. That's just, mark that one, guys. Seriously, we got to look into that. That's a weird little thing going on there. I'm very curious. McAuliffe resigned as Acosta Secretary General Counsel in 2016. He has been doing some consulting and recently joined a West Palm Beach law firm. McAuliffe consultant Rick Asnani said, Asnani. Public service has always been an important part of my life. I wish to continue to serve the residents of Palm Beach County, especially Jeffrey Epstein, and that is why I decided to run for Circuit Judge, Group 13. No, you decided to run for Circuit Judge because I have a feeling your little buddies with the money and, the pedophile parties need a good judge in place. McAuliffe said in his release on the campaign. Now, the good news is I don't think he got it, because now he's writing shitty books. Oh, this is lovely. He's also an adjunct professor at William and Mary. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, guys. It's getting a little of an Epstein vibe off this dude. Yep, so there's that one. I'll put all these links in. All right. I got to give the Palm Beach Post some credit. They actually seem like they were reporting things. Possible state conflicts involving wife of former state attorney McAuliffe hold up two key judicial moves. This is January 26, 2013 in the Palm Beach Post. Let me blow it up so you can read it with me. Okay. Bye-bye. Fearing a rash of conflict of interest claims, Palm Beach County Chief Judge Peter Blank said he has put on hold a plan to allow the wife of former state attorney Michael McAuliffe to preside over criminal cases in 2013. The decision to postpone the move of Circuit Judge Jeffrey Rosenberg comes as several judges in Palm Beach County have begun moving to new assignments this week in a shift that accounts for expanding space in Bella Glade Court Annex and state funding to handle the foreclosure cases. But after reviewing Rosenberg's potential cases several weeks ago, Blank confirmed Thursday that the number of her husband's old cases she would have inherited would likely disrupt the system with potential conflict of interest. Gee, it would be great to get Judge Rosenberg's list of potential cases to see if one of them was Epstein, because here you just heard it, but after reviewing Rosenberg's potential cases several weeks ago, because she's in West Palm Beach where he found his victims, Blank confirmed Thursday that the number of her husband's old cases that she would have inherited would likely disrupt the system with potential conflict of interest claims. This is a intel-rich environment, these two knuckle jobs. Rosenberg, who presides over cases in the Circuit Civil Division, was slated to cover criminal cases in a switch that would move popular criminal circuit judge Joseph Marks to a division seat. So they're switching the criminal guy out into civil and civil into criminal. That's odd, too. McAuliffe was Palm Beach County's top prosecutor until March, when he left the office early. Interim State Secretary Peter Antonacci took over until the end of last year, and new State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg took office January 8th. Blank said because McAuliffe's time out of the office, he'd initially thought the number of those potential cases would be small, but McAuliffe's name still appears on charging documents for criminal cases filed before March, which could spark claims of conflict of interest should Rosenberg preside over them. Well, here we are. We got our conflict of interest anyways, just like I said. Even if the attorneys on both sides of the case had no problem with it, the defense attorneys would certainly have to let their clients know. Blank said, I wonder if judges have to let people know too. Our goal is to avoid even the appearance of conflict. I've got to laugh. All these people are so slimy. Okay, and by the way, Bondi, you got a problem with the judge being married to the guy that was responsible for Epstein's probation and house arrest, which is house like on arrest. Just putting it out there, Bondi. Maybe you should bring this up because everyone seems to know it, but you're not saying it. Defense attorneys such as Scott Skier agree the Blank's move, saying it makes sense just to wait until almost all of McAuliffe's case filings have been resolved before moving Rosenberg to the criminal bench. Something else going on here. This is a whole nother investigation. Why create conflict when there's such an easy resolution, Skier said. Neither Rosenberg nor Marks could be reached for comment. Go figure. Blank has delayed the Rosenberg-Marks switch for at least 60 days. He said he'll review Rosenberg's potential criminal caseload in a few weeks to see if enough of McAuliffe's cases had been resolved by then and revisit the possibility of transfer. So he's not saying if all of them have been revisited. He said if most of them. It's like, yeah, a few conflicts of interest apparently are okay. Meanwhile, several judges have begun new assignments. This is repeating itself. For instance, Judge Krista Marks, who presided over criminal cases as well as drug and mental health courts from the facility adjacent to the Palm Beach County Jail, will move her family court and work from the North County. Okay, they're just going through the logistics here, just scanning to see if there's anything relevant. Oh, that's it on that one. Okay, so this is a good article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is the Gainesville Sun article that I mentioned earlier. They, I think, did a great job. Again, it's very sad. And it's Epstein's first. That's a big thing I forgot to mention. So the prosecutor that McAuliffe replaced, he's the prosecutor that basically painted Epstein's victims as prostitutes. One was as young as 14. And if you remember that earlier article, it's because they had some, sex talk on their MySpace, which for you younglings out there, that was the predecessor to Facebook. Ever since Jeffrey Epstein became a pariah for abusing dozens of teenage girls in Palm Beach. No, he's a criminal. He's not a pariah. What the fuck is wrong with these people? So Krischer acted as if Epstein's teenage accusers were prostitutes who eagerly sold their body to buy clothes at the mall instead of treating them like high school girls who said they'd been sexually assaulted by a man for decades, who was decades their senior. So the guy that Judge Rosenberg's wife took over for, he is the guy that gave the sweetheart deal and basically victimized the victims, blamed the victims. Krischer decided he didn't believe them, but based on a review of the state attorney's investigative files, no one from Krischer's office ever interviewed the girls or their parents. His lead prosecutor declared more than once that there were no victims in the case, according to documents obtained by the Post. Finally, Krischer found a secret. This is the grand jury move here. Listen to this. Finally, Krischer found a secret way to sink the case. He took it to a grand jury where only one victim testified. It was the first time a sex crimes case was presented to a grand jury by his office. You want to do a good investigation? There's another one. People looking for things to write about and investigate. Dive into Krischer. 13 teens gave police nearly identical accounts of how politically connected finance. So basically, they all gave the same account, and this office obviously was bought and paid for by Epstein and his buddies. Prosecutor, okay, I can read the whole thing. I'm sure you guys have seen the movie. Okay, Krischer, the Democrat, Ron DeSantis. Okay, so yeah, so they just go through the same thing we already went through. That's a good article. Okay, so, this is interesting. So, if there's any doubt, this is the Department of Justice Office of Responsibility, Executive Summary Report, Investigation of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida's resolution in the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and its interactions with victims during the investigation. Definitely a good read. It doesn't mention McAuliffe in there, but it does. There's a couple things highlighted. On July 22nd, 2009, this verifies Holly Belt's article about this. Epstein was released from custody to a 1-year term of home detention as a condition of community control, where McAuliffe failed to control it. And he registered as a sexual offender with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. After the victims and news media filed suit in Florida, courts for release of the copy of the MPA that had been filed under seal in the state court file, a state judge in September made the order public. Another thing, too, about his sex offender status, he came off sex offender status like in a year. That was part of it. This is a good read. We don't need to go through it tonight. It's way too late. Just want to make sure I've covered everything. Yep. Special treatment. You can read that one on your own. Talks about the judge that gave him the special treatment. These writers here are, it's amazing. Palm Beach Post back then was doing this kind of reporting. They didn't seem to be scared to do it. I mean, don't forget that Epstein allegedly threatened the Vanity Fair editor by saying he'd kill him if he published a social piece about him way back in the day. And the editor said he found a cat's head in his garden and a bullet like on his like front stoop or something. That's the PSO. So that's where in Palm Beach Post goes into and talks to the actual the prison guards, basically. So another timeline. And by the way, it's good to read multiple timelines. You want to see as the story changes. If it changes abruptly, like someone's trying to hide something, then dive into the editors, owners, and advertisers of that paper. Look, the goal of this show is to get you to pick small targets and take them out. I'm not saying kill them, but take them out, expose them. Because all the people who send me stuff about Bill Gates, I'm like, that's the elephant. Got to take one bite at a time. Or they send me stuff about these big figures or entities. It's like, find that small thing. Find that husband of a judge. Okay, and start digging into them, and it's amazing. One thing about these networks, they all know each other. It's just a big revolving door. Bane was right in Batman when he said they have lied to you and filled you with myths of opportunity. Now, they've got their own cabal going, and no one gets in there. All right? There's his website in case Bondi needs any help with the research. There's a website called No Truth Left to Tell, which I think is hilarious that that's the name of his book. I'm not going to read it. I'm tempted to, but I'm not. Because sometimes you can find really damning clues in books, even fiction. That's his court settlement. I always like throwing some USA Today in there because they're so evil and horrible. Like, you could find out which way the bad guys are going to do something by what they're not reporting on. So there's that one. Oh yeah, so his probation ended. This talks about what he was allowed to do during probation, and they talk about the judge that allowed him to do whatever the hell he wanted. But what's weird about this, again, all these articles about his probation, what he was allowed to do, they never mention McAuliffe. We got McAuliffe disappearing and going back to his job. The whole thing is weird, man. But they never mention McAuliffe, and I think that's why this guy's flown under the radar so much. For some reason, this guy doesn't appear in the media, except a few times. There's his wife again. It's redundant, but you always want to cross-reference. Prosecutors broke the law on the deal with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now we're getting to it. See, now we're getting to why they don't want the files unsealed. They're all worried about it. Okay, they all are. It's a small place, small community, small legal community. I'll leave that one up in the description for you to read. Okay, don't worry if you need a subscription. I should just put mine out there online. Oh yeah, and that's what they talk about. They never told the victims about the fact that this rapist would be walking around their streets. Yeah, okay, would be free as a bird. Never told them. They had, what if he went right for like Virginia Griffey? Went right at her. What if that happened? She'd have no forewarning. Oh, you let my rapist out. Great. Okay. I'm getting clumsy, tired. Sex offender law report. These are all good sources. Again, I just wanted to get this story out to you guys. Make sure we got it all. But collect all this stuff. What I do when I collect this, just so you know, is I right-click, print it, save it as a PDF, then I go into the Wayback Machine, and I got the thing in the extension there, and then you can see here it's been saved, so I don't need to save it again. June 20th, 21st, 2025. The key is to get these websites when they're new. It says a lot of her information on there. And just so you know, if I'm doing due diligence on someone, I won't run this address because it's a public one, but I'll run her phone number, okay? And I'll compare statements someone like that makes, like where they were to where the husband says they are and all that. So every little detail you collect matters. You don't put them all in the report, but you save them all. If you save them on like Google Drive, always back them up on a offline disk. Put them in Google Drive, you can search by it, like it acts like a database, so you can always retrieve your files and always keep a copy of your printed copy and an offline Western Digital copy, because they do disappear. And they can set PDFs to expire, so be aware of that. Oh, this is sickening. Yeah. L. Rosenberg, so Judge Beth Bloom and Judge L. Rosenberg to receive Distinguished Federal Judicial Service Pro Bono Award. What is this? And this is January 17, 2024. Okay. Rosenberg and Bloom of the U.S. District Court for Southern District, Florida in West Palm Beach are joint recipients of the 2024 Distinguished Federal Judicial Service Award. Awards which honor outstanding sustained service to public, especially as it relates to support pro bono legal services, will be presented. So on this one here, I want to see who decides on the award. I want to see who contributes to this award thing. So I'd be going in there for that. I can do that tonight. All right. Okay, guys, I think we are done. Okay, so what's the takeaway? You already know the takeaway. The takeaway is that the judge that turned down and rejected President Trump's petition to unseal the 2005-2007 grand jury transcripts that were taken and convened right before he went to jail, which was, again, not really jail. So that judge that turned Trump down the other day happens to be married to Michael McAuliffe, who just happens to be a guy, the lead prosecutor, who was in charge while Epstein was on probation and on house arrest, a time at which he was able to violate his probation constantly. It was never enforced by McAuliffe. That was his job. And I would even say, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'd say hypothetically, so these people don't sue me, it seems to me that those survivors should sue Michael McAuliffe. And it seems to me that a full investigation needs to go into both of them. For her for not disclosing this, but also there's some shenanigans going on there when he left and went to work for the Koch brothers in the middle of an elected term. Never heard of such a thing. So that's it. So guys, I'm going to let you go. Let me check out some comments. You guys stayed up late with me. I appreciate it. And I do have a really good show set up. This was a detour, but I had to take it. All right. So let me see here. All right, so I'm going to scroll through them. All right. One thing is for certain, my rep Ted Cruz, put on the screen so I can read it. One thing is for certain, my rep Ted Cruz will put on a big show and act like he really cares. Oh, he always does, doesn't he? Yeah, have you ever seen The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy? Anyone who hasn't seen that movie, definitely watch that movie. It is a masterpiece. It's old, but it's good. It really captured DC well. Thanks, Steve. Steve Ladner, down here in the deep Southwest Texas, grand jury verdicts don't actually mean anything when they when self-proclaimed heroes, police are involved because the DA will refuse to prosecute. Yeah, and that's a good point you're making. So grand jury investigation doesn't mean they don't have to prosecute. It's weird not to prosecute if a grand jury finds someone, is likely guilty, but they don't have to. It's That's just how it works. So yeah, that does not surprise me. And that scares me because I think the grand jury is very important. So I don't want it to go away someday, seen as ineffective. So something to look into. I'll mention that to Kelly Mordecai. Ron Rame reposted this stream. Hey, thanks, Ron Rame. Naomi's decades ahead of most people. Definitely read The End of America. That's a good one. She wrote it during the Bush administration, but it really defined what Biden was doing. Years ahead of the game. She's looking for a Fox News job. You talking about the judge? Naomi's not. The judge is looking for Fox. Oh no, Bondi. Yes, she does seem to. She always. And you guys ever hear the way she says Fox? Like, it's so funny because, like, Fox sucks. Like, they suck. They always have sucked. There are a couple shining stars like Tucker Carlson. Jesse Waters, I think, is okay. He's no Tucker Carlson. But the point is, like, they've always sucked. But she's like one of these people that doesn't seem to know they suck and seems to think everyone likes them. She's like, well, when I did my interview on Fox, she always says Fox. And I'm like, no one likes or watches Fox, lady. Yeah, I wouldn't be bragging about that. I wouldn't be bragging about being on any news channel right now. But she seems to think people are going to be impressed by that. She actually said, I did an interview on Fox, which went quite viral. No, it didn't, because it's on Fox. All right. When she was on Hannity's show, she was all googly-eyed for him. This was a few years ago. Hey, Patrick D35, thanks for hanging in there tonight. Shoot me if you got those links. Shoot them over. Shoot them over to. You can send them to this channel here on Rumble or at Brian O'Shea SPI on Twitter. What happened to Acosta? That's a great question. I haven't looked deep for him, but I was thinking that the other day, and I think I started looking and I found myself having trouble finding him. But I haven't really tried. So if you find them, one easy money, by the way, thank you. Thanks for hanging in there. You send me the link. Okay, definitely send me the link. Let me put my little banner on the bottom there so you know where. There we go. All right. Hey, Brian. Mr. A, Blue Wolf 2000, good to see you. Great to see you. Thanks, Blue Wolf. Sorry, I've been literally in my own head on the Epstein files for days, man. Days. It's been a while. Yes, it's been like 3 weeks, because I did one show with Jimmy Wagner. I did another one with several other people that I met, but I was also at Lawrence Fox and his lovely wife Betty's wedding over in the UK with Naomi. Lawrence Fox, if you don't know him, he's the actor in the UK who's facing charges on their ridiculous laws over the UK for retweeting something and speaking his mind. Lawrence Fox is awesome. I consider him, one of my better friends now, and we just met like on a Mark Stein cruise. But the thing is, there's fighters all over the place, and Lawrence Fox and that whole crowd around Mark Stein and all of our friends, they're fighting, and I respect the hell out of them, because what's going on in the UK right now, it's like it's the world against them. So I really respect these people. Father Calvin Robinson, I've had him on my show. All of them great people. Definitely get to know what's going on in the UK, because don't forget that the UK and the United States, they kind of exchange a lot of bad ideas. Okay, a lot of good ones, but a lot of bad ones. Like, hey, let's censor these people. Hey, you censor ours, I'll censor yours. Okay, those kind of things. So I think keeping an eye on the UK, it's kind of like a canary. Okay, you got to watch what's happening there, because you'll see a lot of the UK stuff filter over here. That's why it's important. I'm trying to get actually any one of them on my show. Lawrence was on Naomi's show. Great interview when we were on that cruise. But pay attention to the UK. For instance, here's a great example. You remember the Center for Countering Digital Hate? These are the people that came up with the dirty dozen of misinformation, all that. Well, that dude, Imran Ahmad, he actually worked for the Labour Party early in his career. It was like Brits over here illegally influencing American politics. And I called him out on it too. I went to DC. I was there. I found his office. I couldn't find anyone there. So I took a snapshot of my phone with a little dot to show I was at his office. I put it on Twitter, and then the whole organization blocked me. Center for Countering Digital Hate. So pay attention. The point is pay attention to the UK, because what happens there tends to and can easily happen here. Okay, so, all right, guys. I should probably go to bed. But before I do, I'm really sorry. I forgot to mention my sponsors who at least keep everything going, and certainly I love their products because they keep me going. One of those products is Native Path's collagen. Okay, I put collagen in everything, and I get less aches, pains, everything like that. Go to nativepath.com/Daily Clout. You're going to get 45% off. Collagen is like the mortar that holds all your bones together. So and by the way, fellas, if your hair is thinning as you get older, I don't know if it's collagen, but I've been taking collagen regularly, probably 2 servings a day. I put it in my stews, my soups, my shake in the morning. My hair's gotten thicker. Maybe it's coincidence, but usually hair gets thinner as you get older. I'm 51 now, and I was getting worried, but yeah. So there's that, but it's bones, hair, teeth, nails, everything, and you have way less aches and pains. Way less aches and pains. I cannot stress it enough. So go to getnativepath.com/Daily Clout, and you're going to get 45% off. We've had the CEO on our website many times. He's awesome. It's an awesome company. They also have another product called Native Hydrate. I'm really sad right now because I'm down to my last jar of Native Hydrate. So hopefully they'll send me more, but I guess I should probably buy it. They usually will send you samples if you're promoting a product, but God, the samples go too quickly. I actually hide my collagen and my Native Hydrate from Naomi. And she was laughing the other day because I took one and she's shorter than me, and I put it way up on the top shelf. She's like, did you put that up there on purpose? I'm like, no, it must have fallen up there. Okay, another sponsor of mine personally is Heaven's Harvest. So if you could see these little scrollers on the bottom, Heaven's Harvest is awesome. I can't stress it enough. I was promoting it on Unrestricted Invasion with JJ Carroll, but check it out. If you want really good emergency food that doesn't taste like an MRE or some crap, Heaven's Harvest is great. Here's my test. My son was 13 years old at the time when I brought home the seasoned beef crumble, and it's just dehydrated like burger. And I said, all right, I want you to try this. And he's like, I'm not going to try it. I said, come on, I'll try it. So I tried it, and it was so good. I pretended it was bad, because I knew these kids, man, they'll just munch that shit down. That kid tore through about $300 worth of Native Path beef crumble. So if a 13-year-old likes it, a kid who's pretty picky, it's definitely something you're going to want in an emergency, because if you're in an emergency, you need that food. You need to get in a good mood. You need to get energy. Something that's delicious is going to make your day, even with the bad guys coming down upon you as you're firing out of your, 54 Chevy with some cool gilded shotgun and not getting sore because you took your Native Path. So anyways, the point is, go to Heaven's Harvest. It's heavensharvest.com/unrestricted, and you're going to get a 10% discount there. And then finally, one of my favorite sponsors. I love these guys. They're all awesome. I love all the doctors there. Everyone there is great. The Wellness Company. Go to dailyclouthealth.com and don't use Daily Clout, use everything as your promo code. If you forget it, use Daily Clout. That's fine. I won't hold it against you. But use everything so I can, win the Christmas competition or whatever. But everything on the Wellness Company site is stuff I just love this company. I love the fact that I can call them anytime. And this is before I knew them, but I could call them back then, and I'd always get a doctor on the phone. My co-host, JJ Carroll's face is all messed up, right? He had some surgery, and he looked like he'd been beat up. I knew it was coming, so I knew he didn't actually get beat up. He's a big guy too. But the thing is, he looked like hell. And I said, man, why don't we put you in touch with one of those Wellness Company doctors, see if they could help you out. And I actually put it out on the show. Hey, if a Wellness Company doctor is out there listening, DM us. So a doctor DM'd me, and I gave him JJ's number, and JJ had a whole online session with him, and he waived the fee. So they also, during the big hurricane last year, they gave free online, basically, what do they call them, virtual doctor appointments to anyone that was in the damage area that needed them. And I thought that was great. I thought that was awesome. So Peter Galuli, he's the CEO. He's been on all of our shows. He's wonderful. And all the doctors, Dr. Drew's a good friend of mine and Naomi's. He's great. Harvey Risch, Dr. Habar, Dr. Elbaz, they're all really great doctors. Dr. Thorpe. Dr. Thorpe, if you see this, I owe you a phone call. These are doctors I trust because these are doctors I know. These are doctors who've been to my house. So don't take my word for it. Always check out your doctors. Make sure all their stuff is up to date. But this is where I go. There's and they have all the supplements. They have the ivermectin, everything you need. By the way, there's a lot of companies running around out there, and I'm noticing a lot of companies are starting to mirror the companies that kind of we might call the parallel economy. I have a big announcement I'm going to make, not tonight, but I'm looking into a lot of these companies that seem to be creeping into to prey upon consumers who are easy to trust. Okay, and a lot of these consumers have never been in the online world until the last 4 years. And I'm just starting to notice, there's gold companies that have ridiculous names. I've looked into them. Turned out they weren't even active LLCs promoting on some shows that some big names. There's a pharmaceutical online pharma company out there that's really, really sketchy. I've done a deep dive on them. So my announcement will be what I'm organizing to go after these predatory companies. And by preying on those people, what I mean is they'll do things like have a ton of American flags, say they're veteran owned and they're not, and say, hey, invest with us. And then they take people's money and then they ditch it into some mutual fund. They take 10%. But people trust them because they want to trust, and they say veteran and everything, and look, I'm Gen X. I think all of us are skeptical, which is good. But, I look at people like, my mom and the next generation up, and they do trust these people. And so anyone, and they all seem to have the same MO, you can trust us, it's about freedom and all this. That's all great and good, but do your due diligence on every company, especially one that's selling you something you're going to put in your body, okay? And you can even investigate HHS because I don't fully trust them ever again, all right, or any of their affiliates. So I'll make that announcement. It's going to be big. It's not a big expose. It's actually something I'm forming. It's slow going because I've got 15 jobs. But the thing is, it's going to be a game changer because I want to basically do due diligence on all of these companies. And the ones that do good, we will say when they do good. The ones that do bad, we will say stay away from them. We're going to be very public. And I'm kind of getting all my media contacts together, my former overseas contacts, government contracts, everyone who's out or in parallel industries. And we're going to amplify the hell out of the good and the bad. That way you can navigate your consumer choices with our due diligence report, which will have clickable links to our sources and everything we did. So I kind of gave away some of it, but you'll see what's coming. It's going to be great. So keep an eye on that, guys. All right. So I think that's it. It is 3 a.m. Wow. It's late. So I got to go. Got to go to bed. Okay. So, all right, guys. In summary, Judge Robin Rosenberg failed to disclose a major conflict of interest with her husband being the former prosecutor during the time Epstein was under his supervision in 2009 till 2012. He failed to disclose it as she just denied Trump's request to unseal grand jury files. There's our lovely people right there. As we've seen just by going through the old archive news, they've had conflict of interest concerns before about these two. Then we've got Michael McAuliffe left his elected position and went and worked for one of the Koch brothers, and then got fired and walked out of the office. Don't forget that. Okay, you heard it here first at Brian O'Shea SPI. Okay, and the author that wrote that article. Okay, the guy got walked out by security from a Koch brothers company. It's like being a demon and getting kicked out of hell. You know, you must be really bad. And now he's writing books. I think I don't know what's wrong with him, but he seems a little bit of a kind of a hustler to me. Who was a hustler? Kind of a Jeffrey Epstein type guy. And then she wants to seal the files that probably, at a minimum, have a lot of their buddies or possibly them in those files. Here's my guess. And I never guess, and I never give opinions. Here's my guess. Just guessing. Looking at these two side by side. Not saying anything. This guy seems like... My guess is that maybe this guy was at a few Epstein parties. The husband of the judge that sealed those... that rejected Trump's thing to unseal those records. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not going to cast any, I'm not going to accuse anyone unless I know. You'll never hear me say, that guy killed him. I'll say, allegedly that guy killed him. So I'm saying here, allegedly she's worried. Well, not allegedly. She is potentially worried about something in those files that could be professionally or personally damaging to her and possibly her husband. I think I've said that. Well, I don't know what that is. Okay. Or someone who has sway over her is worried about what's in those. Whatever it is, they're worried there's something in those files. Now, don't forget, it's the Democrats who ushered both of these people into their respective offices back when he had a job. But don't forget that it's the Democrats that are saying it's a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy theory. Great. All right, Judge, open up those files. Okay. And while you're at it, can we do a grand jury investigation on Michael McAuliffe and his weird departure in the middle of an elected term to go work for the Koch brothers? I would like to know more about that. So on that note, guys, have a great night, great morning, whatever it is. Thanks for tuning in. And I will be on at noon Eastern time with my lovely wife, Naomi Wolf, on In the Lair. We're apart right now, but that's okay. My son is back from camp. I'll see him tomorrow night, so I probably won't have a show tomorrow night. Plus, I'm exhausted. But I have a big show coming. It's lots of stuff. If you saw the way I went through Mangione case, or you see the way I do any case, this is why defense counsels love me. I look at everything, and I retain everything, and I make so I could search across everything, because you never know which dots will connect. This is why I never, ever... The only time I'll read other people's books about a subject I'm investigating is usually about halfway through the investigation, just to see if they have any sources or come to any conclusions I hadn't thought about. But never use another researcher and another investigator as a source. You can use their sources, but always try to get as close to the core primary source as you can. So that's why you see I've got everything from Travelocity that these people appeared on. I have a whole list of sources. I'll share them with you, but I used to go to reviews of products and get all sorts of great information that way. You just never know what's going to connect something to something else. Okay, I happen to be doing a search for my other show, and I see this headline. I'm like, oh, here we go again. And I just happened to catch that last line, and I was like, oh, I got to take a look at this. Take a look at this. So that's the advantages of ADD, man. I have ADHD from PTSD. Apparently it's a side effect. But it makes you a great investigator if you can harness it, because you have laser beams in 15 directions all day long. Anyways, now I sound crazy and manic because it's 3 a.m. Guys, that's it. All right, corrupt judges, potentially corrupt judges. This guy's a bit of a tumbleweed, I think, or ex-husband. May or may not be a philanderer. I don't know. Not accusing anyone of anything, but do me a favor. grab my Substack. You can go on there, do the free subscription. I don't care. I appreciate, for the hard work. If it helps support me, helps me get more focused on this, so I don't have to go out and get an additional client. That's how I do my work. I get clients, and then, I investigate for them. I investigate for you. You get it for free, but you don't get to choose the target. So any help you could give me lets me focus on this more, and you'll see also with the new thing we're doing, it's all good. But even if you don't, go to the Substack and do me a big favor. Go in here and share this article and bombard the press secretary's email and Twitter, and bombard Pam Bondi's, and bombard Dan Bongino's, and bombard President Trump's with this article or these sources or clips from the show. I met Trump. It's not about getting FaceTime with them. I want her to have no excuse to not bring this up. I don't care if she cites me. I don't care. There's no reason I can find this stuff in 1 hour on my freaking iPhone while I'm throwing the ball for the little dog who's super cute, Loki. But there's no way I found this on my iPhone in 1 hour, and she had no idea because she did not mention it. This judge needs to be brought to task, and Pam Bondi needs to do her damn job or get out, because I've never seen Trump keep anyone around this long. All right, so guys, on that note, you keep your jobs, but keep investigating everything and keep sending me those leads. PT Moon, good shout out to you. I had a good call with her the other day. She's one of the audience. I let her call me. She had made a great connection on the Mangione case. She was at home going through it, and she didn't realize what she found. She sent me a bunch of stuff. Autumn, if you're out there, keep up the great work. Blue Wolf, always great to see you. And all you new people, Easy Money, everyone that came on tonight, Ron Rame, Steve Ladner, all you guys, thanks for tuning in and staying with me so late. This has been Brian O'Shea with Investigate Everything. Have a great morning. Oh, before I forget, if you're going to have a great morning, definitely get some 1775 coffee. They're not even a sponsor, and it's the best coffee ever. So definitely check it out, 1775 coffee. Guys, have a great night. Tune in tomorrow, 12 o'clock. Me and Naomi Wolf. I don't know what we're talking about, but it's going to be good. It always is. It's always fun. I disagree with her on most things, and for some reason people love that. Not most things, but we're very nice to each other. Actually, we have too much fun, I think. But and then tomorrow night or sometime this weekend, big show coming, and more shows to follow. I'm going all the way into this Epstein thing. I'm looking at every single person I can before I die in the Epstein case, because I can't believe the people it's connected to. We're going to talk about that tomorrow on Naomi's thing. We're kind of connected to the case through someone in her professional life from back when that she worked with, and I knew. It's just amazing. Like, once you go near these circles, who you get connected to. So anyways, I'm rambling. Guys, have a great night. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon.